How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Fibs Reacts. Let's talk about this new Masters of the Universe movie. So this is, of course, an adaptation, or I guess a reboot, of the classic 80s cartoon He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now, the reason I say it's a bit of a reboot is because this is actually not the first time we have seen He-Man in live action. There was a version done in 1987, which kind of bombed at the box office, but nevertheless, I do have to give it credit for the first live action version of He-Man that we saw on the big screen. But here we are in 2026, and we have a brand new iteration of Masters of the Universe, starring Nicholas Galitzine as He-Man. And I gotta say, just off the jump, this movie is a lot of fun. I tell you what, I had a lot more fun with it than the last movie I saw. But with a runtime of a whopping 2 hours and 21 minutes, yeah, this had better been a fun and entertaining movie, because otherwise, boy, it would have been a snooze. So starting off with the cast, I think all around, everyone played their part very well. I liked Nicholas Galitzine as He-Man, and man, did this guy bulk up. I definitely hit the gym after seeing this movie. But what I will say about the persona of Adam, he was kind of an idiot. Like, they really just made him a clueless dumbass. And it's like, that's not who Adam was, like in the cartoon, for example. When he was Prince Adam, he was still competent and wise and had a certain regal presence about him. And I know that they probably did this just for a lot of humor bits, but still, you know, after a while it really just got annoying, and I found it really kind of degrading to him as a character. But I gotta say, man, when they did the iconic He-Man transformation, oh my gosh, seeing this in live action was so damn cool. I mean, when he said, "I have the power," like, it basically shook the theater. Like, it was so cool. I think they did a really good job with those sequences. I wanted to talk a little bit about Camila Mendes as Teela. Now, I was a little skeptical about this casting at first because, you know, Camila Mendes comes from the world of CW acting, and so I kind of had my doubts. But I gotta say, I did enjoy her portrayal of Teela. I thought she was very strong, very fierce, obviously very beautiful, and I enjoyed seeing her relationship with her father, portrayed by Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms, and how she basically had to step in where he fell short. And I think that created for a very interesting kind of family dynamic of her basically trying to get her father back and him trying to find bravery and honor again. And some of the sequences with Man-at-Arms in particular were so cool in live action. And just to say, kind of overall for the characters, I wasn't really sure how they were gonna look in live action, and I didn't know if they were gonna, you know, MCU-ify them. So it's like you kind of got the idea of their classic costumes or their classic looks from the cartoon, but it still had more of a modern flair to it. But man, this movie said, yo, we're just gonna rip the characters right out of the cartoon and put them into this movie. I think it looked really good. It's like if you took the action figures and just threw them on the screen. That's what you're seeing in this movie. I think all the characters looked great, especially Skeletor. Oh my gosh. Now listen, as much as I hate to say it, Jared Leto as Skeletor was probably my favorite part about this movie. I think Skeletor, the design of the character, looked fantastic in live action. I liked how menacing he was, and he kind of reminded me a little bit of Ultron from Age of Ultron, in the sense that, yeah, he was this dark and sadistic villain, but at the same time, he had like a little bit of humor to him, which I think was really interesting. I think a lot of his fight scenes looked really good. And I also like the dynamic between him and Alison Brie as Evil Lynn. Alison Brie's portrayal of Evil Lynn I thought was very interesting because she really almost gave a more cartoonish portrayal of the character. I'm not gonna sit here and say it was bad necessarily, but it did have that sense of campiness to it, which I gotta say, a lot of this movie felt very campy. And I think sometimes it worked and other times it did not. And I think overall, that's where this movie really suffered for me, was there was just too many moments where the humor just killed the moment. And it felt a lot like Thor Ragnarok in that sense. And it got to the point where you really felt like the energy in the scene start to pick up and you're like, wow, this is so cool. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna crack a joke, and it just kills the entire moment. Look, I don't have a problem with humor here and there, and I understand that with something like He-Man, if we are kind of going off of what we saw in the cartoon, there is definitely a sense of campiness, there is a sense of humor, but still, I think it was way overused in this movie. Like, Skeletor would have these like really villainous, dark moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like this is a, you know, really like well-developed villain. He's really doing his bad guy thing. Like, this is really cool. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna have a humorous moment. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, like everything intimidating that I was just feeling about this character, you took away in 2 seconds. And the last transformation of Adam into He-Man in his final battle with Skeletor, which by the way was super epic and really well done. He finally transformed and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And the music swells and you're like, that's fucking He-Man. And then it's like, he puts the sword away and he's like, hey Skeletor, let's talk. And you're like, man. Now of course he does eventually, you know, beat the shit out of Skeletor. But again, I think in that moment, like a lot of times in this movie, you just kind of got blue balled. So I think it would have been better if once he had that incredible transformation, if he would have just immediately gone into beating the hell out of Skeletor, I think that would have been much better, and I think it would have flowed a lot better in that scene. Teela and He-Man were kind of having this moment after they had just crash landed their ship, and Teela is kind of expressing these emotions of like, I really missed you, I thought about you a lot, and he's like, you know, I did too. And honestly, I really felt the chemistry, and it was like they were setting up for a kiss, but then again, blue balled, and it was just killed with a humorous, oh, like, I missed you just as a friend, ha ha ha. And I'm like, oh my god. And listen, I'm not saying every time you have an attractive male character and an attractive female character, they always have to be love interests. But I think with these two characters in particular, I genuinely did feel a sense of chemistry between them, especially in that scene. And honestly, I think a kiss would have made sense. I do think the overall look of this movie was pretty good. The look of Eternia and the design of that planet entirely looked great. All the action sequences with all the different vehicles and ships, I think looked really good. Obviously, as mentioned before, He-Man's transformation montage looked amazing. However, the one part of the movie that I think the CGI kind of fell short was with Cringer, which I was a little wary about in the first place. But at the same time, I knew that they couldn't have made a He-Man movie without Cringer. Now, it's not to say that he looked just downright terrible, but there were certain shots where I was like, ooh, like that looks that looks like a CGI tiger right there. My final thoughts on this movie. Look, I think it's a lot of fun. Now, did it necessarily warrant the 2 hours and 21 minute runtime? Definitely not. And I think a good chunk of that was just comedic moments that were just absolutely unnecessary. It's a fun movie, especially if you have kids. I think they would really enjoy it. And definitely for those of you who may have grown up in the 80s or have parents who grew up in the 80s, I think they would really enjoy this movie. Again, there are definitely moments where it falls short, but overall it's just a fun action sci-fi movie. So thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to give the video a like and subscribe. If you saw the Masters of the Universe movie, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, catch you later.